Hi everybody, this is Aunt Cheryl and I would like to do a video for prepping for beginners. The topic I want to talk about is weather. Now, and I want to break it down to flooding, okay? Now the reason being is that Free Spirit Press News, and she has changed her channel name, but she had done a video on flooding, and her and I kind of talked about it, and I said, yes, I want to do one about flooding. Also, in the news, there's a lot of areas in the United States that's actually having problems with flooding right now, and it is an issue that we need to be taking into consideration. Now, we had major flooding last year, a lot of crop failures, farmers unable to plant, just a lot of issues with flooding. And this winter, we have had up north extreme amount of snow that's melting, and now we're having a lot of areas are having a lot of rain. So people are dealing with flooding all over the place. So we need to think about that. We need to talk about it. Now, I don't want to talk about exactly the flooding, but the causes, the problems that it causes. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my area. We actually live in a town that sits in a valley. And a lot of the bad weather actually goes around us, so we don't get a lot of the bad weather. Recently we had a really bad snowfall. Places as close as a half-hour drive, an hour drive away from us, got 2 to 3 inches of snow, whereas all we got was a light dusting. So a lot of the bad weather goes past us. Now, because we do sit in a valley, we have a lot of issues with flooding. A few years back, we had some severe flooding in our area. They called the state of emergency for our town. A lot of places were damaged. Some trailer parks were damaged. Some of the businesses were damaged. Lost a lot of money. Car dealerships and stuff like that lost their inventory and things like that. It was pretty bad. On a personal level, my great nephew had an accident and had to go to the hospital. Well, we couldn't get out because of the flooding, so we ended up having to call an ambulance. But of course, the ambulance couldn't get to us. So basically what we had to do was we had to go to the flooded area just up the road from us, and we had to kind of meet halfway with the ambulance and, kind of creep around it to get to the ambulance. Now, the ambulance ride is maybe 5 minutes from where we are at and to the hospital, and it literally took us 15 to 20 minutes to get there because the ambulance had to go different route, different streets and stuff in order to get to the hospital. That can create a problem. And when you think about your area, do you live near a river? I don't live all that far from the Mississippi. There goes my phone. Sorry. But I mean, I live far enough away that we don't have issues with it here, but I did live further north many years ago, or it was probably in the 90s, when the Mississippi did flood, and it was extreme issues up in that whole area of Jefferson City, and even 20 miles out from it was still major issues. What kind of issues are you talking about? Well, getting around, being able to bypass areas that are flooded. A lot of the roads are either low-lying, or we have creeks that have slabs on them. And if you know anything about a slab over a creek or a river, they only go as high as the banks go. And that could be anywhere from a few inches to a few feet above the floodwaters. And so, and the water passing over those slabs are extremely dangerous. So, you know, you got to think about your routes. How do you get around if you have an emergency such as we did? Think about that. Plan for that, okay? Another issue that we had when we had flooding was we had some severe looting. I mean, there was people that literally waded into the trailer parks that were damaged and stole stuff out of those trailers. I know a man who had was renting his bedroom furniture from Rent-A-Center or Rent One or whatever it's called. It was a rental place. They went in and stole his bedroom suit. Well, he was held liable for that, and he had to pay for that furniture, despite the fact that he had to be evacuated out of his trailer, and someone waded in there and literally carried his bedroom furniture out of that trailer. You know, issues like that. It is a real thing. And you got to think about that. You got to think about, you know, where are you living at? What are you going to be dealing with? You know, there's a lot of issues. And so think about your area. Think about, you know, are you close to a river? Are you close to some place that floods? Are you going to have issues, and what kind of issues are you going to have? Prepare for those. Prepare for, you know, if you do need to evacuate, securing your home, you know, those kinds of things. You know, it is something, it's part of prepping. It's part of being prepared. And so I want y'all to think about this. I'm going to put a link to Free Spirit Press News video that she did about flooding in my description box. And, you know, pay attention. Pay attention to your weather, and pay attention to what's going on around you, because it could be an issue for you. And with the rains that we're having and all the snow up north and it melting and all of that coming on, we need to think about this. All right, you all have a nice day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.